They say if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. The nature of fierce competition in MMA can sometimes force fighters to do questionable things. Here are fighters who got away with illegal moves. Jose Aldo's fence grab. We've all seen the astonishing moment when Jose Aldo ran into the audience after defeating Chad Mendes in Rio de Janeiro. But do you know what truly transpired before that? A crime. A heinous crime that's punishable by law. Just kidding. Aldo indeed committed a horrendous foul, but it was no crime. The King of Rio scored a vicious knockout with 1 second left in the first round, but this was only possible because he grabbed the fence to avoid a takedown. Mendes, who back then was very one-dimensional, relied heavily on wrestling exchanges, and was shooting takedowns like his life depended on it. As the opening round closed, Mendes lifted Aldo into the air, and it looked like he'd end the round on top. That's when Aldo used his secret wrestling technique that involved a fistful of octagon fence to avoid the takedown. This foul kept Aldo on his feet, and he landed a concluding knee shortly after. DC Towel. Daniel Cormier has finally confirmed that he may have grabbed the towel during the infamous weigh-in incident. Cormier is a Hall of Fame fighter, an inspiration, and a great mouthpiece for the MMA community. He's not just crafty inside the cage, but outside of it too. Cormier was scheduled to take on Anthony Johnson in a rematch for the UFC's 206.2-pound title. Wait, it was for the light heavyweight title. Oh, then Cormier has to weigh 205 pounds max. 2 minutes later, DC returned and lost 1.2 pounds. Was it magic? Did he cut off a toe or two? No, he held the towel. In applying slight pressure to the towel that was being held to avoid full frontal, DC alleviated the weight necessary for him to make weight. GSP Gets Greasy. When George St. Pierre took on BJ Penn in their second bout, fans saw another one-sided GSP performance. However, the Canadian fighter found himself in an ironically sticky situation in between rounds. St. Pierre looked Vaseline going into this fight, and he was performing very well. His grappling looked slick as always, and when striking, he would slip shots and counter well. So do we think GSP needed to cheat to win? Absolutely not, as this didn't stop him from being on thin ice though, because ice is slippery. Get it? GSP's corner rubbed Vaseline all over his back in between rounds, which made it much harder for BJ to get any submission offense going from his guard. Really, it just made fighting the arguable GOAT harder in every aspect of the competition. Ben tried to get this loss on his record overturned, but the appeal didn't go through, as the commissioner told Penn to get a grip or try to. Germaine de Randamie being a bit late. Fighting Holly Holm is no easy task. She's a great striker, a former champion, and has become very well-rounded over the course of her transition into MMA. However, de Randamie entered this bout as the more polished striker between the two. This bout was closely contested, but things often ended with the Brazilian getting the last punch. The problem with that is that some of them were a bit too late. Germaine wasn't super punctual, or should we say, punctual, with her strikes. Time and time again, Holm was attacked after the round was over across various rounds. It's one thing for it to happen once, but twice as hard to vindicate as the heat of the moment thing. Despite these late strikes, there was no points in deduction. Had there been one, which there should have, then this bout would have ended in a draw. Jon Jones's career. Unlike Jones, we can't place a finger on just one instance of him cheating. Instead, we'll just talk about most of his fights. Steroid accusation aside, Jon is known as a bit of a dirty fighter. He already has an abnormal wingspan, but he maximizes his reach advantage by fully extending his hand and fingers, often right into the opponent's eye line. Many a fighter has tried to breach the reach, but most have been poked for their troubles. Eye pokes seem to be a problem with no solution in MMA due to the gloves needing to be open for grappling. Many fighters have been on both ends of an eye poke, so it's not a super foreign sight in the sport. But Jon Jones' name is synonymous with eye poking. And also, there is that one other particular incident involving an illegal knee that didn't turn into a DQ.
If you like this video and want to see more, subscribe to Sportskeeda MMA on YouTube and follow our social media accounts for all MMA related content.